So you want to start a personal brand, but you're not too sure where to start. I mean, there's content creation, there's social profiles, there's branding. Well, that's why I have on today Matt Cretzman, who's going to walk us through his BCT formula for knowing how to launch and grow a successful personal brand. Matt is a digital marketing innovator and LinkedIn strategist who's turned personal tragedy into a mission of impact. From founding a children's home in India to becoming a globe-trotting marketing consultant, Matt's journey is inspiring as it is instructive. As the founder of Stormbreaker Digital and LeadStorm AI, Matt has helped countless B2B companies and entrepreneurs harness the power of LinkedIn to skyrocket their growth. His unique BCT formula, which we'll talk about today, brand, content, and traffic, has enabled clients to 10x their revenue and build global networks. Matt's not just about lead generation, though. He's a digital strategist with Wirebuzz, a growth consultant and an AI enthusiast, always pushing the boundaries of what's possible in marketing. His expertise has taken him around the world 3 times, closing multiple $1 million deals from Dubai to Dublin. Wow, wow. Currently, Matt is co-authoring The LinkedIn Advantage with Tony Geary, the results guy, and has developed the LinkedIn Power Score assessment tool. With a passion for innovation and talent, for turning connections into opportunities, Matt Cretzman is here to share insights on leveraging LinkedIn, embracing AI, marketing, and building resilient businesses in our digital age. Please welcome Matt Cretzman.
Rah, rah, yeah. Nice, man. Dave, thanks so much, man. Pumped to chat with you today and nerd out on branding and marketing stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know we're in similar spaces, which is why I love having people like you on the show, because I think we get into some really good topics, especially for our audience who's here to learn that. So,
Exactly.
hell of an intro, I should say. Sounds
You
like
gave it. I
you've had
appreciate that,
some.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah, my assistant put it together. It's like, man, did I do all those things? Yeah, and I'm only
right.
38. Geez.
Yeah. I mean, globetrotter around the world, marketer expert.
No,
I do have
come
to
on.
ask though, as the founder of Stormbreaker Digital, Stormbreaker,
Yeah.
where did the word Stormbreaker come from?
Oh, that's great. Great question. Over the years, I've had maybe 4 people kind of get it right off the bat. Um, so it's from a movie,
I have my
and
hunch, but
yep, yep.
yeah.
You
Are
want
you
to
a
take a
Marvel
guess at which
fan?
movie? Huh?
Are you a Marvel fan?
Yes, I'm a Marvel fan. You're getting
Okay.
warmer.
Is this Stormbreaker the Thor's axe?
Yes.
All right. I
There you
had to
go.
represent
Number
my
5.
my Marvel nerdiness. Yeah.
There you go. You're a big time nerd. I knew
Yeah.
it.
No, when I saw that, I
um,
was like, please tell me that's where it's from.
yeah, and if the lightning on the website doesn't kind of give it away, you know.
There you go.
Um, yeah, I actually, and kind of relevant to our topic with branding. I started my agency back in like early 2020, and late 2019 even. And the name that I gave the business was Indur Marketing, INDUR Marketing, and it was the dumbest name ever. Like at the time, like I'm being super clever because the IN was like the LinkedIn kind of icon. It was the LinkedIn logo. And so I was kind of
Mhm.
telling people, like, and I'm like, what's a word that means so much to me? And I'm like, endurance, and because at that season of my life, I've learned like that's one of my words. And in multiple seasons, I've had different words, but the tendency is, and you probably talk about this, I do all the time too. The tendency when we're branding something is we brand something after something special to us, which means nothing to anybody else. And so it took me a little bit of time after spelling the word so many times. I was like, people be like, is that an IT company? What is that? What do you actually do? I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
you know what? It's time for a rebrand. All right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I picked Stormbreaker Digital. Hopefully the digital makes it a little bit more clear. And Stormbreaker's kind of that, grittiness that, it's just kind of like a cultural vibe for how we do work. But when branding, it's best to not think about what's really cool and meaningful to me as much as it is what will resonate most with my ideal clients, so that they actually get it and it excites them. So
Yeah.
Stormbreaker Digital is it. Yeah.
No, I feel that because I've always racked. I, we're serial entrepreneurs. We've probably started dozens and dozens of failed side projects, but the most fun
Yep.
part of it is kind of coming up with the name and the logo. And that name, as you say, it always goes back to something that you want to get super creative and abstract, and it's the
Yep.
fun part. But then you realize that sometimes it's just being on the nose is probably the most important thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Apple, companies like Apple kind of got away with it because you have no idea what the hell that company did if you just heard the word Apple.
Correct.
But yeah,
Yes.
sometimes it's just like grow your brand LLC, and like that's probably the best way to do it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We build cool websites. LLC.
Right. Right. Easy enough to remember too, right?
Easy enough.
Yeah. My agency is Zen Post, and even that is like, oh, I'm thinking like, all right, Zen, you get like, the monk and the
Yep.
meditation, like we make it easy. And then there's Post, which is,
Yeah.
posting content and all that kind of stuff. I would think, oh, people would understand Zen Post. I can't tell you how many people I've asked, like, what's Zen mean? Or Zen post, are you saying Zen Post? Like, they have to clarify. I'm like, man, I thought I was being super clever with this name, and it is not
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
catching
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I can kind of get it. If you're making posting less stress free, which
Yeah.
like reaching Zen, right, would kind of be a place of peace and stuff. So I kind of get
Yeah.
it, but maybe not for everybody. I may be a little
Right.
bit more cultured than most, given where I've been.
Sure. Well, let's jump in more to branding, because you have your BCT formula, and talk us through like
Yeah.
one high level what it is, and then how it came about, how you actually created this formula.
Yeah, good question. So when I started out the first like you want 1 to 2 years, I was known as I was the LinkedIn guy, I was the lead generation guy, and um, that's a good thing and a bad thing because people's tendency, at least in that period of my life, was, oh well, so you're really good at getting me leads. It doesn't really matter anything about my product or my branding or the fact that I haven't posted since 2008. You're going to get me leads. And so after just running successful and failure slash learning experiments with clients, which, by the way, if you haven't figured out how to take your product to market and sell it to a complete stranger, then what you're really hiring a marketing firm to do is called product research, market research. Just a little side note there. And so, after doing a lot of market research kind of campaigns, it kind of came to the conclusion that, there's some commonalities between campaigns that win and those that don't. And, only 3%, probably spitballing statistics that you also quote, but helpful for our listeners, only 3% of your total audience is ready to buy at any moment in time. So 97% are not. So the question is, like, which one are you going to focus on? If you got $1 million to blow on ads, then fine, go ahead and compete. But if not, and you're focusing on the 97%, well, that requires a whole lot of education and inspiration and really meaningful content and really good positioning and branding. And so just over time of just running, client campaigns and just doing marketing work, I realized like those were the three. Those were the three common traits that translated to successful and really happy engagements, and those that had gaps and opportunities for growth. And so BCT kind of became the process by which I would view. It colored my world, and it's how I viewed marketing campaigns and really companies, and put them through the filters like, do I want to work with these people, do I not, and if not, if I don't think they're ready, then that's a really honest conversation. If you're not clearly articulating who you are and who you're not and why it matters to the 97% and educating, then the traffic campaigns are really, again, it's market research at that point. You're testing and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as that's the expectation. So
Yeah.
BCT is just a good formula, and it's not, there may be like one or two other letters you could tack onto that, but as a whole, if your business isn't growing the way you'd like it to, that's a great foundational place to start. And we can jump into, well, how do I analyze that? What kind of questions should I be asking? Fortunately, we live in an era with AI that can do a lot, if not all of the work for you, if you know
Yeah.
how to ask it and stuff. But So that's kind of a high level. That's BCT.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get into AI today as well because I know you have your foundation in AI with a lot of this. So I don't want to jump ahead, but you mentioned something there that's really important. Where if you're not growing online, look at these some of these foundational things. We face this a lot as Zenpost as well, where sometimes people don't want to move forward with us because they feel as though some of the things that we cover in our services they've already covered. Like they know, oh, I have that figured out. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of our pushback is, well, if you did have that figured out and you were doing some of these things that we're telling you you should be doing, then
Mm-hmm.
you will be seeing better results and you haven't been. So it's almost a little bit like, oh, I want to lose weight and I have my diet figured out. And it's like, well, no, let's audit this diet and make sure you really do, you
Yeah.
really are hitting a certain amount of calories per day. What are some of
Yep.
the things that people should be thinking about when they think, oh, I have this figured out? I don't need to go through this process, but yet I'm not seeing success with my personal brand and my content and lead generation. What are some of the kind of the tripwires that people are kind of running over with understanding, what they actually should be auditing with their marketing?
Yeah. So foundationally, when I'm talking to people about brand, there's 4 or 5 things that I look for that give an indication of where their brand needs to go, what improvement needs to be done. If I don't clearly understand their origin story or the backstory, right, or the genesis, and this shouldn't take that long, right? This shouldn't, like, especially on LinkedIn. If you're going to be active on LinkedIn at all, like, your profile is so important. Like, the profile it's essentially a reflection of who you are. So if I can't come to your profile and somewhere understand the journey that brought you here, then that's a big miss, right? Because facts tell, stories sell, and you have to be able to tell the story, which communicates trust, relatability, emotional connectiveness with your ideal audience and ideal customers or clients, whatever. So origin story is a really big one. If you haven't clearly mapped out your personas, and this would be a question that, we as marketers would probably be able to do the work and kind of tell if this was done properly. But for business owners, like, have you done some kind of persona work at all? To really unpack, who they are, what they care about, their challenges, their fears, and all that emotional stuff. And then if you're a consultant or an author, speaker, or a coach, I would look for, do you have a signature framework? Is there something unique to you that you are bringing to the market that is your secret sauce? Right. And that's, again, like, I could look at the profile and kind of understand if that's true or not. Like an ocean of John Maxwell coaches, leadership coaches, health coaches, and AI consultants now, right? Like, EOS, there's, IPAC, like, there's a billion coaches. This is super, super important and not that complicated. So having a signature framework is massive for differentiating yourself and positioning yourself as an expert, even above, their peers. Website, right? Personal brand website, authority website, high converting website. Please stop making websites like brochures. Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't, 1995. So, those are a couple of simple things to look for. Do they have a book that communicates authority? And all of these things, yes, like, we're at an amazing time with AI that can help develop these foundational assets. But those are, like, some of the things that are big, and can make a significant difference. And us marketers really appreciate that, because you've given us some ammo, to kind of work with as we go out and hunt new business for our clients.
Sure, absolutely. So it sounds like some of that stuff we start to get into the concept of branding. Like what is it that you need to have in place from a brand perspective to have a successful personal brand? And so I want to start diving into this BCT formula. May have mentioned some in your previous answer, but like when you look at branding, one, like how are you defining that from a personal brand perspective, but also what's kind of like the checklist of things that we need to be looking at from a branding perspective, whether that's, visual identity or,
Hmm.
like you said, target market,
Hmm.
stories, etc. What kind of is encompassed under your brand bucket?
Yeah, I mean, all the things that I just mentioned, those are all like foundational pieces, and we could say like manifestations of your brand. Ultimately, you understand branding is the impression that you leave on people when they think about you. It's like, what are they thinking when you're not there, right? What are they telling their friends about you, or your vision, and how are you communicating that properly? It's all of the aspirational, emotional things that you really want to portray to people, to really help people clarify. Your brand should clarify, right? It should clarify, if I'm looking at you, it should clarify, I like this guy and he understands me, and therefore I want to be like him. Or I don't like that at all. I think he's completely wrong and he's not for me. Like, we're sometimes afraid. I think it's in our human nature to draw a line. And the question is, like, are we making it easy for other people to decide which side of the line they're on? You
I
know?
think that's a important point here too. Is you mentioned two different things. One is, does this person get me, which then requires that the coach, consultant, whomever understands their target market. Like they deeply understand their pains, desires, wants, needs,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit because they were them 5 years ago, or they've
Hmm.
just worked with them for so long that they just know them inside and out. And the other thing was, not just do they get me, but do I like them? And that's a
Correct.
little bit more of like a personal taste thing, right? And then that kind of gets us into things like expressing your
Yep.
personality through video and all that, to kind of, or within your content, your writing. So kind of
Yep.
talk to me through, how do you see when someone, because this is where I think a lot of people get tripped up, is like, oh, my content's not working, it's not resonating. And I think this is a large part of why, is because, do you really understand your target market? Do you
Yeah.
understand their pains, wants, needs? And are you translating that well into your content? Because you can just decide to, oh, I think this is going to be a great topic, I'll just, create a YouTube video or a LinkedIn post about it. But if it's not like really resonating with something that is a deep desire or pain of your client,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going to translate into sales. So how do
Yeah.
people truly understand, or what's like the best practice to really understand their target market, so that they can make sure their target market goes, okay, this guy gets me?
Yeah, perfect. Great question. I mean, the most obvious, number one, if you've been there, then you get it, right? Like, there's no substitute for having gone through the journey yourself. The second thing, um, if you haven't had firsthand experience in the challenges that you're trying to solve for your target market, I mean, number two, the most obvious, not easy, not scalable. Everybody wants things to be scalable today, but to a certain extent, maybe not so much. But pick up the phone and call them, right? Talk to your ideal audience. You can run campaigns on LinkedIn, start that conversation. And honestly, like, these are the best types of campaigns, the campaigns where you don't necessarily have an agenda, but you're just wanting to empathize and understand your target market. And messaging like, hey, I'm launching a product to help X overcome Y. Just have a couple questions, could you give me 5 minutes, because I want to help you. Are you kidding me? Like, people would be much more inclined than, hey, I built this product for you guys and I think it's really going to take your, like, shut up. Okay, stop it.
I would
That is
say
everybody.
that, like, early on, I mean, being like in the tech space and being a serial entrepreneur or whatever, and having all these side projects, a lot of the time it is, let me build in a silo, launch it and
Yeah.
go, who wants this? If you build it, they will come. But one
Yes.
of the biggest lessons I've ever learned is that you need to build in public, build with your
Yeah.
audience, have
Yeah.
that community, and get that feedback. Yeah, for what you're saying, in the sense of like,
Yeah.
you need to know if what you're building is correct, right? Not just how to incorporate it into your content, but also like the offer you have. is that going to solve the pain point of your ideal client? And then, yeah, you have to talk to them to understand that. And I know
That's it.
AI is a big part
That's it.
of your world. So
Yeah.
is there a way to incorporate AI into figuring that out as well?
Yeah. So ChatGPT is great for research and strategy, and then Claude is just phenomenal for copywriting. It's man, it's a superpower if you can figure out how to use these things the right way. So I'll give you an example. So last week I was hanging out with my dad in Canada, which is where I'm from. Now living in Texas, I got here as fast as I could. Love Canada, but I really love Texas.
Yeah.
And
Back to the
so we
warm
were doing
weather.
some. What's that?
Back to the warm weather.
Yeah, back to the warm weather. It's raining, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
No complaints. Yeah, we were doing this. So I sat down with him for about 3 hours. And here's never done any branding, nothing, no marketing, nothing. So if I can do it for him, you can do it. Whoever's listening to this, and you're like, I've never done brand work, or I can't even know, I don't even know where to start with brand. Here's a really simple process. So go to your LinkedIn profile. If your profile is super basic, and again, my dad hadn't touched his LinkedIn in like 15 years. Super basic. There was like a resume. Basically, it was a resume, right? And so go to your LinkedIn profile on desktop. Click the three buttons beside add section, and you can download as PDF. Download your LinkedIn profile as a PDF, and then you can take it over to I would go straight to Claude. Go to Claude if you want. I like Claude Projects. It's $20 a month, but it kind of gives you, like, ChatGPT has custom GPTs where you can give it specified knowledge, and that's the same thing with Claude Projects. In which, by the way, AI is only as good as two things: the knowledge it has and your ability to ask it really good questions and give it direction. It's just like a human. So if you have those two things, then the output's going to be really high. And so give the resume, the PDF to Claude, and then just ask this question, just like you were talking to a human. Here's the prompt: my name is. I'm uploading a PDF of my LinkedIn bio because I need your help developing a personal brand. Take a look at my experience and the about section, and help me do full brand development. Fill in any gaps that may be missing, and I want you to think about how this could relate to my ideal audience or ICPs. I would, and boop, like, hit enter. It's going to do a ton of research, and it's going to spit out at least a V1 of a pretty darn good, brand summary or positioning of you. You might need to clarify, like, your experience somewhere, or your roles. If you don't have any descriptors, just kind of tell it, like, when I worked here, I did this. When I worked there, I did that. And then from there, you really just want to. It'll give you vision, mission statement. And what I would tell it then, depending on your goals, like if you wanted to move into consulting or coaching, then I would say, excellent, thank you so much. Always be kind to AI. You never know when they're going to take over.
Yeah, right.
And then say, I want your help developing this into some consulting services. Help me understand who of my ideal audience may be struggling with things that I, in my experience, may be able to help them with, and connect the dots. And then you would go into there. I would probably, by like the third or fourth prompt, then start talking about, in your messaging, add emotion. It's best if you tell AI, specifically Claude, I want you, when we're writing content, right? Once you do full personal brand development and everything, then it has a pretty clear understanding of who you are and, what you do and who you should talk to. So if you're going to get into content, then I would say, I want you to write, for instance, maybe a LinkedIn post. And I'm just kind of riffing here, but this is what we do. I want you to write a LinkedIn post. Make sure the first two lines are a really strong hook and has a cliffhanger on the second line, so people click see more. And I literally would type this and tell it that. I want you to write from first person, make it conversational and story driven, and then have a defined call to action at the end towards my whatever, opt-in or lead magnet or whatever. And now that'll give you some really great content. If you want to take it to the next level, go to ChatGPT, take all of the information that we just did in this exercise and put it into a Google Doc. Give that Google Doc to ChatGPT. Just the basic one is fine. And then say, again, like, hey, my name is so and so. Here, I'm uploading to this chat a document about my personal brand. I want you to do some research and give me stories or articles that are trending about topics that I should focus on creating content around. These can be historical, they can be up to date, relevant, trending, whatever. Give me a mixed bag. You can say that, and some statistics that might coincide with that. Enter, and then it's going to give you like all of this information. Pick the story or the article that you like, and then you can say, "Great, I like this one. Let's unpack that a little bit more." Most people don't know this, but ChatGPT is like the world's largest library. If you have a question about a book, go to ChatGPT and ask it, hey, what books relate to these topics? Here's my brand, and it'll give them to you. And then you could say, awesome, give me direct quotes from this book that relate to the point I'm trying to make in this article. And it'll actually like pull it right out of there and give it to you. So then you could take all of that research, go back to Claude. I would have a separate custom like Claude project for content. And then I would go into the content, upload all of that stuff, and then you would want to select one article, focused article, and then go give it to Claude and say, now let's write an article on the topic. Here's all the information, blah blah blah. Write it in my voice, and then communicate emotion, right? Make the person feel a certain way, so that it comes out in the writing.
Hey, Dave here, obviously, but I want to just pause this episode real quick and say thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Brand Science. I hope that you're getting as much value as a viewer or a listener as I've gotten as a host. And if you are getting value from this episode, it must mean that you enjoy nerding out on all things personal branding, content creation, and strategy, which means you're my type of person, so I want to connect. Once you're done this episode, go down to the show notes where you'll find my LinkedIn profile. Click on that link, head over to my profile, and send me a request. When you send the request, there'll be that little pop-up that comes up that you can add a note in the request. Just tell me that you found me from a Brand Science episode so I know that you are one of those loyal, awesome listeners of mine, and let's connect and learn together. Anyway, just want to say, love you. Thanks for listening. Let's connect on LinkedIn. And back to the episode. I want to jump into content shortly here, but I want to make sure we touch a little bit more on branding too, because I know it sounds like AI can really give you kind of the 0 to 1. Hey, if you've never been in marketing before, or don't really understand how to translate what you have into kind of an outline of a brand, it's a good way to start there. One thing is storytelling in your branding and understanding who you are and how that plays into your branding and kind of like your overall tone and shtick. Do you have any opinions on, like, okay, you mentioned there's so many different coaches out there, right? How do you stand out? And I think the branding part of it is really the element there to help you stand out online. How
Totally.
does kind of defining who you are and representing that through either your content, maybe even your visual identity, in order to stand out in the market, play into kind of your branding strategy, especially just because there's a lot of sea of sameness online. People find what's working and then they go, okay, I'm going to do that. And it's a lot of copy paste. So what's kind of the best way to define your brand and your tone so that you can then next steps then represent that through your content?
Yeah. It's, I mean, a couple different ways. Like it's an exercise, right? You should be, doing exercises if you want to use, these tools that I've talked about, maybe some of the processes, but if you haven't found your voice and identify like, yes, this is my writing style. You should know when you read it, like you should know what you're comfortable with, what you're not. And just, you can have AI and tell it to write, an article. And like what we're talking about as well is not like, don't just go in like, hey, AI, write an article. This should be based on like your experiences and your expertise and maybe some real life stories. But if you get it to write it in certain different ways, write in, actually, here's a great example. Who do you like to read that resonates with you? I follow a lot of people online. I'm like, man, these guys get it. Like, I love reading their stuff. So that to me says like that's kind of my voice to a degree. I still have a very unique way of saying things because, I know me. I'm sarcastic. I'm a little witty. I'm not an intellectual that much. Although I love nerding out and like, so I know my voice. Like I know what sounds like me, but it's going to take some time and experimentation for you to just get in the process of writing. Just write and have AI help you out, and then look at your finished product, and then you could go to people who know you best and say, "Hey, I'm trying to hone in on my writing style or my voice a little bit more clearly. Would you say this sounds like me?" And then just have them ask. And once you do that a few times over, then it's pretty straightforward to then replicate that voice or that tone in different pieces of content. But I mean, ultimately, 3 years ago, we would have went to a branding expert and they would have taken us through all these different exercises. What's your brand archetype? Right? Like, are you a fox? Like, are you a falcon? Like, are you the challenger? Like, which one are you? And you could certainly do those experiments, and you can have AI, walk you through those experiments. But ultimately, like, the proof is really going to be in the pudding. And until you actually like get out there and just experiment, it's going to be hard for you to really put your finger on and say like, yeah, this is me, this is my style.
Right.
And so just from, just you learn by doing. And that's really it. Jump out of the nest, as John Maxwell says, and build your wings on the way down. You'll learn how to fly in most cases before you fall to the ground.
Sure. So
you
this
know?
is all right. So we have a good idea of branding, like who we are, what we need for that. And then now we need to translate that into kind of the C part of this formula, the content side. What's
Yep.
what's kind of your strategies behind content? What's the importance of publishing content? Let's start there in terms of having gaining leads, having a successful personal brand. What's kind of the importance of publishing content and showing up?
Yeah, so there's, obviously what we're doing right now is like the best form of content. It's long form content. This is, people still, there's the perception of authority when you're on TV. Well, guess what? TV 2.0 is podcasting and, live streaming. So, and YouTube channels. So you should have some kind of a content outlet somewhere where you're consistently contributing to content and your brand. And stuff. I'm a huge fan of YouTube. I think most people should have a YouTube channel, just because it's long form, it's searchable, it ranks, and it's usually stuff that's always going to be relevant to a degree if you do it right. But yeah, aside from that, like content types. So when you're starting out, you're trying to build your tribe and you're trying to build trust and an audience. So and people make decisions based on trust. So and here's trust, right? It's the same actions over time equals trust. Um, Not everybody, we live in a microwave era, right? An instant society. Not everybody has the patience and they want to invest, a significant amount of time and energy and money into becoming that world recognized authority in their domain of expertise. So what you can do is you can borrow trust. So ask yourself the question, or ChatGPT, hey, who in this industry, who are some of the biggest voices that speak about X, fill in the blank. And most people don't know this too, but you can actually go to ChatGPT and say, who are the top voices on LinkedIn and then fill in that blank, whatever that is. If you even Google LinkedIn top voice topics, it'll give you a website that has like 100 different words, or topics that you can speak about on LinkedIn and become a top voice. So once you have that list of people that already have a following, already have a brand, already have trust, go to them and ask and say, hey, can we partner up in some capacity? Can I interview you like we're doing right now? I'm hosting a, fireside chat, a panel, whatever. I'd love to feature you. Borrowing trust from other people's audiences is really one of the fastest, if not the fastest, ways to create content that can be perceived as authority content. And it's a whole lot easier. It's the Oprah effect, man. Oprah became who she is because she got up on stage, brought in the experts, and gave her 2 cents on their take on stuff.
Mhm.
And so that's like a great way of creating content. that helps build authority and build trust. Since we're both kind of like LinkedIn nerds, and I think a lot of our audience is probably thinking about LinkedIn, get a LinkedIn newsletter. Um, LinkedIn newsletters are as boring and bland and vanilla as it sounds. A newsletter on LinkedIn, I promise you, it is a great hack for getting an audience for a few different reasons. One, if you brand the newsletter again after your ideal client, make it something that's interesting, not super boring and IT news 2020. No, don't. Okay, make it interesting. And then you can use that as outreach, as a strategy to outreach. I'm writing an article on, you seem to be an expert in. Do you mind if I grab 5 minutes and just ask you a few questions or get a quote from you? That's a great, point of leverage to start a conversation with somebody who's got, 25, 50, 75,000 followers on LinkedIn. Great. They've got a well-established brand. That's really easy. And then when you're creating content and posting articles under your newsletter, all people have to do is subscribe, hit that check button, yes. And then every time you publish an article, you send a push notification to their phone, right? Like, man, you can do that for free if you just want to go and create a newsletter. Now you're creeping on people's phones really anytime you want. And what you can also do is you can post long form YouTube videos in articles on LinkedIn, and they will not penalize you for it. If you put that link in a post, they're going to slap your hand. The algorithm will. And it's not really going to go as far as it would if you did put it in an article, because you can embed that video right within the article. So that's a nice little hack. The strategy that I've kind of coined the term is the content domino. So content domino, long form piece of, what's the one action? Really, the answer to the question is, what's the one action that you can do consistently, sustainably, that will create a lot of really good content for you and your brand? That's usually like an interview or something like that. The content domino is like a really simple way to think about it. And usually what we do is we pair that with like a LinkedIn event. Use LinkedIn events, host a live stream or something, or a live or that panel as a LinkedIn event. Get some collaborators, get them to check yes as a collaborator. They share on their profile. You get in front of their audience. They're bringing them with them. You go live. You record a long piece of content, goes to your LinkedIn newsletter. Rinse and repeat every month. Just rinse and repeat. That's a really nice, sustainable way to create content. But ultimately, be real. And I try to, think creatively as much as possible. Because it's never been easier to create content. So you gotta like raise the bar or have some kind of unique angle, ideally. And here's the thing, like, people will watch you if you show up as you'll find people will watch you, as big or small as you may be at this point in building your personal brand, over some big gurus, because they feel like they can relate to you, or you speak in you think like them, right? So they'll feel that connectedness to you than they will other people. And so don't be afraid to just jump out there and just show up and be you, create content, because they'll appreciate that. They'll appreciate that authenticity. My last point is we can't talk about content without talking about videos right now on LinkedIn. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
0.5% of LinkedIn's total user base,
I just posted a video the other day where it was talking about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And I don't know if this is small beans to some people, but it got like 500,000 impressions or something like that, or like 300,000 unique or 200 and some thousand unique views. And I posted the following day, I said, I just got 12.7 Madison Square Garden amount of views, seats worth of views, by publishing a video on a free platform. And, how much would that be worth to you to get that amount of eyeballs? And luckily, like, LinkedIn is free. It's crazy how much it's really trying to push LinkedIn. And I know that's a large strategy of mine right now is vertical video, since LinkedIn is coming out with its Reels TikTok feed fairly soon.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Chris Walker's another great guy that I love to follow. He preaches it all the time, and it's funny. He'll if you follow you follow Chris, you gotta follow Chris. Chris is awesome. He's
Yeah.
like, and he's amazing with demand generation and just like content creation. It's funny. Shout out to Chris, my boy. Love you, bro. Um, Chris, this is a little tip. Chris will like say things on Instagram that he won't say on LinkedIn, and sometimes he like like says something really exciting or kind of vents a little bit on Instagram about LinkedIn. And he said that very thing. He's like, people don't understand what's happening right now with LinkedIn video. Like y'all are over here competing on Instagram and TikTok, and posting your videos here, but if you just posted it on LinkedIn and tried to build a brand on LinkedIn, you would get 10x the results. And then he's like, one person's going to follow my advice right here and become a millionaire. Everybody else, they're just going to ignore it. And like, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
It's tough. I mean, I know a lot of people are weary of getting on camera because it's not a natural thing. We don't
Yeah.
we get taught how to write and type and we go to English class and we learn how to form grammatically correct sentences, but we're never really taught how to do that in front of a camera naturally. Like growing up, depending how old you are, you were in front of a camera where you had to prop it on your shoulder and it was like whatever, and it's just little home videos. And then over the time, the cameras got smaller, they got into our pockets, and it became easier to record ourselves. And then social media became a thing, and we can now
Yep.
put those videos online and have results from that. But no one tells us how to like show up and be an authority on camera. So it's
True,
not
true.
it's not for everyone in the sense of like it doesn't come naturally for everyone, but it's for everyone in the sense of like we kept talking about this in the sense that you want to make sure you can represent who you are, so that if you're a coach consultant and you're going to be spending time with people, they need to know what your personality is. And if I'm going to be working out with you in the gym as my fitness trainer, if I'm going to be going to uh you know open houses because you're my realtor, or you're just my coach and like I'm going to be on Zoom calls, what's your
Yep.
personality? Do I like you? Whatever. And like video is the number one source for doing that. So it's critical, but it can be very a difficult thing for people to press record and show up.
Sure. Yeah, I got some hacks for that, bro.
Sure.
Okay, couple hacks. All right, so there's a couple tools that I highly recommend people use. Descript is great for cleaning up the video and chopping it up into different social media pieces. Opus Pro is a great tool. Give it like that long form video, and it just like cleans it all up and dices it up into reels, which is super nice. Getmunch.com is another great tool where you can give it again like your Zoom call, and it'll go through and analyze it. And with it'll select the highest performing clips. It'll write the captions for it, the hashtags. I'm not really a big fan of the captions, but it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, anyways. And then there's another tool that I'm testing out right now called Letter Drop. Letter Drop is really interesting, great for sales teams. Oh my gosh, I've been looking for a tool like this for a long time, and so man. So what you can do is you can connect it to Fireflies, which everybody has an AI note taker nowadays. Amazing world we live in. So you can connect it to your Fireflies, and then Letter Drop will analyze and pull in and create content from your Fireflies recorded meetings in your voice for everybody on your sales team or yourself. So, you're already like in front of the camera. Why not use the video content that you're already creating in Zoom calls, whatever those are, sales or internal or whatever, where you're kind of communicating your expertise and it's really authentic. Like that's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit for you to create content. And the other one, like get into, you got to think like, what are the habits? Like, what are the workflows that I can incorporate into my routine that make it easy for me to create video? I've got one client, she's been consistently creating video for 2 years. It's nuts. And she said, it's just automatic. So what she does is right after a meeting with a client, she'll think of something from that meeting that was like a really good point, or they asked her a question, they had a challenge and she helped them navigate it. And then boom, right away, right after the meeting, just put up her phone on a tripod, tell that story to the camera. That's it. It's fresh. You're probably passionate about it, which means you're going to deliver it the best, in the best way. and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the number one point of advice I would give anyone who's starting out with content creation and you're trying to come up with a strategy is try to figure out how it already incorporates into your existing life, right? Because it's like I always use this analogy, but it's like starting a fitness routine where, all right, if you now have to carve out an hour and a half to get to a gym, and then you go and you try to do these workouts that you've never done before, you're going to quit basically in a week. But if you kind of just incorporate some exercises into an already existing schedule and you start small and you just maybe take the stairs instead of the elevator, blah, 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 then it's much easier to grow towards a like larger content strategy. Same thing with just content, like you're saying. If you're already having business meetings, if you're already having sales calls, like start there and
Yep.
incorporate it, and translate that into content. And then, yeah, for how I see my own content strategy, I look at it as kind of like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel type
Yep.
content. I'm
Yep.
categorizing, okay, top of funnel content. This is going to be more about talking about industry news, talking about my personal stories and journeys, basically connecting me with the industry. Where can I pull that content from? And a lot of my podcast interviews, we talk about just like what's trending, what's going on, like thoughts on the industry. So I go, okay, let me pull that from my podcast episodes and then translate that into use Descript as well and make some 20, 30-second clips and then details. I
Yep.
posted one of that on my LinkedIn today, actually. Middle of funnel content. This is like more demonstrative content where I'm going to show you, okay, I've told you I can talk the talk, but this is me showing you I can walk the walk. And that's we do now dedicated times with me and my business partner. We do teardowns where you talk about kind of piggybacking authority. We do teardowns of top industry personal brands in the space. Justin Welsh, Danco. We're doing one on Sophie Miller. So now we're like looking at, okay, what are the specifics of their personal brand blueprint that we're giving kind of instructive, demonstrative, step-by-step processes to kind of repeat for people who want to also implement that into their own personal brand. Clip that up, and now that's stuff I can use for my middle of content. So it's a matter of just like getting it on the schedule and then working it into your calendar. Do you, when it comes to
Yep.
content creation, how much of that should be planned and scheduled, and how much of that is like, okay, what do I want to post today?
I mean, I think it'd be a win if you get like 80% of your content scheduled, and then just kind of leave the 20% for something impromptu. And it's not easy, but you should like think ahead like 3 months, right? Think ahead 3 months at least, and just think about what you can create. There's going to be evergreen content. There's going to be evergreen content that's always going to be relative, and then there's going to be more time sensitive content that you should be posting, whether it's an event or release, an offer or something like that, that's time sensitive. So, you can, yeah, you can kind of think of it in that terms, but, there was something I was going to say, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Um, Brain fart.
We'll circle. Yeah, we'll circle back to it. So I want to make sure we get, because I know we're really rolling here. So I want to make sure we still get to the concept of traffic.
Yep.
So BCT, we're on the traffic element of it. So we know who we're talking to. We know what makes us unique. We're translating that into content. Now, how do you see the traffic side of things?
Yeah, I mean, really, kind of you could say three types of traffic: paid, inbound, outbound. And I'm a big fan of outbound. I've done outbound for years, and we kind of started this conversation saying that outbound really works its best when it's empowered by good content. Thank you, Adam Robinson, inbound led outbound, and content led outbound. There's all these like new terms for it, but yeah, I love outbound. So set up campaigns that make sense. Run them on LinkedIn. Email is a great channel if you use it the right way to really drive people to your profile or to some kind of like a lead magnet or something, or invite them to something. Give first is really the mentality that you need to have over email. And then like the best type of inbound, and it kind of dovetails with the content strategy, lead magnet type posts. what is something that's crazy? You talk about those tear downs, like, hey, I just spent 40 hours tearing down so and so expert's personal brand. Who wants the video, right? And the cheat sheet, like that stuff's it's gonna perform really well. Another friend of mine, he's been giving away like lists for like the past couple of years. He now has like, geez, almost 1 million followers because he's the list broker. He just gives them away, but you got to get the email, give them your email to get the list. So those are the types, in my opinion, of the best like inbound type, where it's done in conjunction with some kind of a lead magnet. And I would make that a big part of your content mix too. Is like high value giveaway type stuff. And then obviously ask people to reshare it, because this will help your network, which kind of makes them feel like they're, doing a whole lot of good. But
You
yeah.
you mentioned a few different assets too at the beginning of the chat in terms of personal websites, your basically your
Mhm.
personal brand sales page, which is like your LinkedIn profile essentially. You have
Yep.
lead magnets. When we talk about driving traffic, where should we be thinking about driving the traffic to?
I mean, well, I mean, it depends. Like it depends how long they've been hanging around, right? Um, and it depends on how fast your following is growing on LinkedIn. If you're growing faster, that means you've got a lot of people that don't really know you. So you should probably think about putting them into your top of funnel lead magnet versus like a middle of the funnel lead magnet, which might be a little bit longer or something like that. So I mean, it really depends in your strategy. Um, and ultimately test, like there may be people that would take advantage of a 3-part free video series or video training, and they would appreciate that more than a cheat sheet or a Loom video, or a Google document. Like it really just depends. So you should be testing them out consistently to see which one works the best.
Yeah. One person I love that does traffic, uh, that directs traffic in a really creative way is Justin Welsh, one of like the top
Brilliant.
LinkedIn guys, right?
Yeah, he's a genius.
One of the founding fathers.
Yeah.
And his goal, his process, his personal brand blueprint is that he highly puts emphasis on his personal brand website. And what he does is he pushes everyone to his newsletter, but he
Yep.
hosts all of his newsletters on his website natively. He doesn't, have it on some separate newsletter hosting site. And
Hmm.
then in his content, he breaks down a topic that people are really interested in. His ideal client is really interested in, and he goes at the end of it. By the way, I have a full playbook breakdown of this concept here, and then links off to his personal brand website. On his
Yep.
personal brand website, it's the newsletter where he's then promoting all of his offers, options to sign up for his newsletter, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
he's kind of capturing eyeballs and attention on his LinkedIn, X/Twitter. And then he's
Yeah.
going, if you're interested in this, I have the full breakdown on my personal website. So he's always driving people back to his owned asset and
Yep.
then from there selling them on that. So I just really love
Yep.
that kind of workflow that he does there, where it's not always just something native on the channel that you're publishing
Correct.
content on, but also like, let's get you over to something that I control and I can push my offers
Exactly.
on you more. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, own your audience. Yep. As great as LinkedIn is, and we love LinkedIn, and whatever social media channel is your favorite, you don't own it. So you got
Yeah.
to figure out how you're going to own that audience. An email list, building an email list is something that it'll benefit you forever.
Yeah. 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 Well, this has been awesome, Matt. I know we chatted for a while here, so I want to make sure if people want to learn more about you, this book that's coming out, your offers, where can they go?
Yeah, mattcretzman.com is my personal site, but if you wanted to kind of dip your toe in the water and get started, go to linkedinpowerscore.com, and you can kind of take the free assessment, and it'll give you a good sense for where you're at, and maybe what you need to improve to do better on LinkedIn.
Dope. Yeah, I'm gonna go do that right now, and I'll share it with you after this.
There you go.
Cool. All right, Matt.
Thanks,
Appreciate your
Dave.
time today, man.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.